Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Brivakacharya Stadasishimad. His Divine Grace Sri Lesi Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Brivakacharya Stadasishimad. His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Gokishore Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Srila Thakur Bhakti Vinod ki jai. All glories to Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Go Premananda Hari Havo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All together, please. Om Jnana Timarandasya Ganandana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Padakamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Prijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padang Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapcha Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhana Tuta Devi Pranamami Pripriye Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, as it is. Second chapter, contents of Gita summarized, text number 17. Is it 17? Please repeat. Avināśi tu tad viddhi yena sarvam idam tatam vināśam avyayasyā na kaścit kartum arhati avināśi tu tad viddhi yena sarvam idam tatam vināśam avyayasyā na kaścit kartum arhati avināśi tu tad viddhi yena sarvam idam tatam vināśam avyayasyā na kaścit kartum arhati. Okay, go ahead.
avināśi tu viddhi avināśi tu viddhi yena sarvam idam tatam vināśam avyayasyasya na kaścit kartum arhati avināśi tu viddhi yena sarvam idam tatam vināśam avyayasyasya na kaścit kartum arhati
avināśi tu viddhi yena sarvam idam tatam vināśam avyayasyasya
Yasya
na kaścit kartum arhati
na kaścit kartum arhati asya viddhi.
yena sarvam idaṁ tatam vināśam avyayasyasya na kaścit kartum arhati.
Okay, please repeat. Avināśi, imperishable. 2. But, tat, that, viddhi, know it, yena, by whom, sarvam, all the body, idam, this, tatam, pervaded, vināśam, destruction, avyayasya, of the imperishable, asya, of it, na kaścit, no one, kartum, to do, arhati, is able. Translation, Srila Prabhupada. That which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. Please repeat. That which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. Purport, Srila Prabhupada. This verse more clearly explains the real nature of the soul, which is spread all over the body. Anyone can understand what is spread all over the body. It is consciousness. Everyone is conscious of the pains and pleasures of the body in part or as a whole. The spreading of consciousness is limited within one's own body. The pains and pleasures of one body are unknown to another. Therefore, each and every body is the embodiment of an individual soul, and the symptom of the soul's presence is perceived as individual consciousness. The soul is described as 1/10,000th part of the upper portion of the hair point in size. The Śvetāśvatara Upaniṣad 5.9 confirms this. Bhalagrasata bhagasya sadada kalpitasya cha. Bhargo jivaha sa vinedyaha sa chanjya kalpate. When the upper point of a hair is divided into 100 parts, and again each such part is further divided into 100 parts, each such part is the measurement of the dimension of the spirit soul. Similarly, the same version is stated. It should have. This is in the Mandaka Upanishad. Keshi bhargasya sasadasya sadrisham shakamaka jiva suksha shrupoyam sankhya tiko yahi kana. Excuse me? It's quoted there. There are innumerable particles of spiritual atoms which are measured as 1/10,000th the upper portion of the hair. Therefore, the individual particle of spirit soul is a spiritual atom smaller than the material atoms, and such atoms are innumerable. This very small spiritual spark is the basic principle of the material body, and the influence of such a spiritual spark is spread all over the body, as the influence of the active principle of some medicine spreads throughout the body. This current of the spirit soul is felt all over the body as consciousness, and that is proof of the presence of the soul. Any layman can understand that the material body minus consciousness is a dead body, and this consciousness cannot be revived in the body by any means of material administration. Therefore, consciousness is not due to any amount of material combination, but to the spiritual soul. In the Mandaka Upanishad 3.19, the measurement of the atomic spirit soul is further explained. Esho nur atmacetasa bidatjivo yasmin prana panchada sambhisesha pranaschitam sarvam otam pragyanam Yasmin Vishuddhe Vibhati Esha Atmana. The soul is atomic in size and can be perceived by perfect intelligence. Cetasa Vegetavo. This atomic soul is floating in the 5 kinds of air, prana, apana, vyana, samana and udhana, situated within the heart, and spreads its influence all over the body as the embodied living entities. When the soul is purified from the contamination of the 5 kinds of material air, its spiritual influence is exhibited. The Hatha Yoga system is meant for controlling the 5 kinds of air circulating the pure soul by different kinds of sitting postures, not for any material profit, but for liberation of the minute soul from the entanglement of the material atmosphere. So the constitution of the atomic soul is admitted in all Vedic literatures, and it is also actually felt in the practical experience of any sane man. Only the insane man can think of this atomic soul as all-pervading Vishnu Tattva. The influence of the atomic soul can be spread all over a particular body. According to the Mundoka Upanishad, this atomic soul is situated in the heart of every living entity, and because the measurement of the atomic soul is beyond the power of appreciation of the material scientists, some of them assert foolishly that there is no soul. The individual atomic soul is definitely there in the heart, along with the supersoul, and thus all the energies of the bodily movement are emanating from this part of the body. The corpuscles, which carry the oxygen from the lungs, gather energy from the soul. When the soul passes away from this position, the activity of the blood generating fusion ceases. Medical science accepts the importance of the red corpuscles, but it cannot ascertain that the source of energy is the soul. Medical science, however, does admit that the heart is the seat of all energies of the body. Such atomic particles of the spirit soul are compared to the sunshine molecules. In the sunshine there are innumerable radiant molecules. Similarly, the fragmental parts of the Supreme Lord are atomic sparks of the rays of the Supreme Lord, called by name Prabhu, or superior energy. So whether one follows Vedic knowledge or modern science, one cannot deny the existence of the spirit soul in the body, and the science of the soul is explicitly described in the Bhagavad Gita by the personality of Godhead himself. Mukam karochi vachalam pangam laite girim yakripatamaham vande Shri Guru dinadarinam. Avināśi tu tad viddhi yena sarvam idaṁ tatam vināśam avyayasyāsya na kaścit kartum arhati. That which pervades the entire body you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. Yes, so as Prabhupada finishes here, the science of the soul is explicitly described in the Bhagavad Gita by the personality of Godhead himself. Now he should know because he is the creator of the soul. Many people speculate throughout time, artists, scientists, the soul of man is their emotions or their desire or their aims in life, the soul of a woman, the soul of a child. It means the inner being. But here we find out very scientific knowledge from the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Of course, all those things can be said about the soul, that the soul is the source of emotions, desires, and so on and so forth. But that is the personality of the soul functioning. The soul itself is an angsha of the Supreme. Mama angsha jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. So he's eternal. And the soul, being non-different in quality from the Supreme Lord, is also ecstatic by nature. Satchidananda Vigraha. The Supreme Lord is not static, as the impersonalist may theorize, impersonal, without desire, just having the quality of existence. But no, the Supreme Lord, Lord Brahma says, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. So the soul has that same quality. Of course, the Supreme Lord is unlimited, but as we hear here in this purport by Prabhupada, very detailed, and quoting the Shastra, the soul is very minute, 1/10,000th the tip of a hair. Of course, some people have very thick hair, some people have finer hair, so we can understand this to be a general estimation. Now, Prabhupada does say there that the material scientists cannot divine this. Yes, that is correct. They cannot divine it, they cannot see it, because the spirit soul is transcendental. The spirit soul is not a material entity. That is also another mistaken theory that the scientists, atheistic materialism, they like to propose that the soul or consciousness is created by gross matter. At a certain level of complexity, consciousness arises. That is their complete speculation. As Prabhupada mentioned there in the purport, that once the soul has gone from the body, you cannot reanimate it. It will degrade. Of course, within the material body, there are many spirit souls actually. As it says here, they are like the particles of the sunshine. So if let me say, the lord of the material body, the soul that is the lord of the body, when it dies and it's left under the ground or it will generate so many bugs and worms and so many things, they'll come out. But there is one spirit soul under the governance of Paramatma, under the governance of Krishna, that is the master of this body, if you like, that it is his domain. And Prabhupada makes the point here that the consciousness of the soul is limited, generally speaking, within the material body. As Prabhupada mentioned, the pains and pleasures of one body are understood by that soul, that kingship soul within the body, under the supervision of Paramatma. I'm not aware of the pains and pleasures of your body, except maybe by perception or psychic resonance, but I do not feel it as you do. So Prabhupada makes the point again that this shows that because this consciousness is limited within this material body, that we are not Vishnu Tattva. Vishnu Tattva, or we are not all-pervading consciousness, as the Mayavadis theorize. They consider that there is just a field of consciousness, and through interaction with the Maya Shakti, we discussed this a couple of weeks ago, the individual soul is temporarily created. The examples given, different theories of the Mayavadis, that the Brahman is like the sun, and the individual souls, we'll repeat from 2 weeks ago, are just like clay pots filled with water. So the Brahman is reflected in each clay pot on the surface of the water. When the clay pot breaks, then the Brahman is not reflected in that individual body, the clay pot representing the body. And then, therefore, the soul or the reflection is non-existent. But as we just quoted, Mama Angsa Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, eternal. So the Vedic religion is Sanatan Dharma, or sometimes termed Jiva Dharma. What is the Dharma, the nature of the soul? So that is also another word, or just like soul is bandied about, but Dharma means that which cannot be changed. What is the nature of the soul? What is the constitutional, inherent nature of the soul? So that is the Dharma. Now, there is also Varnashram Dharma, described in the Gita, of course, summarized by Krishna. That is a system of social organization to make things suitable for spiritual realization of one's transcendental relationship in Sanatan, in eternality. If society is very disorganized and full of conflict and disharmony, then people will not be able to fulfill the goal of life, which is to realize their relationship with the Supreme Person. So Varnashram Dharma is a construction there, naturally within human society. Naturally there is the workers, there's the business type people, there is naturally those that want to be governmental and join military and police force and so on. And then there is also a natural group of intellectuals. So they reach perfection, those four classes, when they are performing their particular duties to realize their relationship with the Supreme Lord. So that is viddhi, rules and regulations. Whatever your propensity is, guna karma vibhagasha, whatever your guna is because of past karmas and desire, you should perform those activities in a comfortable way, but you should perform your varnashram duty as yajna. Yad karosi yagdasi yagstadosi dadasi yad tapasyasi kunteya kurusva madhapanam. It should be offered to Krishna. Then it becomes karma yoga. You're doing your karma according to varnashram, and you are developing seva bhav. So through seva bhav, everything can be understood about our relationship with Supreme Lord. So therefore, in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, I think second chapter, it says that those dharmas vanustita pumsam, those that perform dharma, varnashram dharma, and yet do not gain attraction for hearing the message of the Supreme Lord, they're performing useless labor. Because they're performing their material activities, but they're not going to come to the point of liberation, they're not going to come to the point of realization. So the varnashram is constructed in a way to give seva bhav to the soul, and then if we develop seva bhav to the Supreme Lord, then we will, as that verse says, we will gain attraction, or we should gain attraction, for hearing the glories of the Lord. And then Sanatan Dharma, or Jiva Dharma, can be practiced within the support of the rules and regulations of Varnashram. And that Sanatan Dharma is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. So the first four are called Bhagavat Mark, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam. Anyone can do those without formal initiation. They just have to take shelter in the sampradaya under the acharyas and the sadhus and take instruction in that way. But then Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam, these are the five topics of deity worship. Archanam, worshipping the deity, Vandanam, offering prayers, Dasyam, Sakyam, and then surrendering. So they also have that function in a higher sense, because instead of doing one's varnashram duties on the material plane according to one's propensities, one is serving the murti, So Archanam Vandanam Sakyamatmani Vedanam, that teaches us Seva Bhav, because we install a deity according to rituals or bhava, and then we serve the deity in a regulated way. So that subordinates us to the deity. Oh, the deity must be worshipped, fed, taken care of. The deity room must be cleaned. So we become dasya. We become in a mood of service automatically when we do deity worship. So that is all very productive of our real relationship. As Lord Chaitanya said, Naham viprocha narapati naipi vaishana sudro naham bar, that I am nothing to do with varnashram. What am I? Essentially, I am Gopi Bhata Kamalayo Das Das Anadas. I am the servant of the servant of the servant of the master of the gopis. So that is our complete spiritual relationship. That we are the servant of the servants. This is transcendental. Varnashram is pointing, according to my material conditioning, I'm advised to behave in this way. But I am doing with it a view to becoming Gopi Bhata Kamalayo Dasa Dasa Das. So there is that sloka in the Bhagavatam, Swarupena Avavashtiti. Muktir hitavan yata rupam Swarupena Avavashtiti. That Swarup, what is mukti? Mukti is not just liberation from the material energy. Again, as the Mayavadis may think, when the clay pot is broken and the reflection is dissipated, then you become liberated into the Supreme. No. Liberation means to be situated swarupena avavashtiti, in your natural swarup, as your relationship with Krishna, to develop swarup siddhi. So that is seva bhav. That is dependent on seva bhav. In this material world, we are relating, as it said in the Purport, Prabhu said, that we are within the material body and we're distracted from the spiritual platform by prana, vyana, samana, udana, so on and so forth, the 5 life airs. We're distracted away from the transcendental platform by the pushing and pulling of the material senses. So, how to get that under discipline, as Prabhupada says there, the Hatha Yoga system is to regulate and balance the different life airs in the system. And then one can pursue meditation on the absolute transcendental platform. This is Turiya. So that will give one perception of the transcendental platform, but it is imperative that we understand it is through seva bhav that you enter the spiritual world. In this side of the book is the material world. We want to serve ourselves and our material body, our material goals. On this side, we're serving the Supreme. In the spiritual world, everyone is the selfless servant of the Supreme Lord. In the material world, everyone is the selfish servant of their material bodies, the senses of their material bodies within which they are confined. So seva is there, but we must develop that seva bhav to the spiritual platform. So that is also Rupa Goswami, what's that? Atakshri nama di nabhaved grayam indriya sevan mukhi jivado swayameva spuriyada. So how is it done? So the important point there in that, the first part is that actually we say Vasudeva Savamiti. That is correct. That everything is the Supreme Lord. At least in the sense it is the Supreme Lord's energy. But it is also resting upon the Brahman effulgence And Paramatma, within the material world, it is resting upon the Supreme Lord. But the yogi, the bhakti yogi, Upasana Kanda, he is not meditating on Brahman or Paramatma per se. He understands their position. He is meditating on Bhagavan. And that is the special emphasis of Lord Chaitanya, that he taught us that we should adopt as our Ishtadeva, as our worshipable deity, Radha Krishna in Vrindavan. So we have in Brahma Samhita, Chintamani Prakara Sadhana Sukha, Lord Krishna is sitting on a golden throne, surrounded by the Lakshmis, the gopis, and he's been worshipped with great love, and that I worship that, and Venam Kambantam, and he's holding the flute, he's playing the flute, he is inconceivable potencies. Lord Brahma is giving that vision. So that vision of Krishna is for the devotees of Lord Chaitanya the ultimate Ishtadev. And they develop Seva Bhav to that deity. How? Sevan Mukhi Jivado Swayam Eva Spuryada. That if we serve that Supreme Lord with Seva Bhav, starting with the tongue, then Spurti. Spurti means spontaneous manifestation. The Supreme Lord will manifest within our consciousness. We hear the conscious now. Now within our body, we're focused on the body, and the pains and pleasure of the body are our focus in the material world. But therefore, the Bhakti Yoga performs sadhana with Seva Bhav, offering his sadhana, his tapasya, like Lord Brahma, as an offering to the Supreme Lord. So these 9 items, also Varnashram practices, but particularly the Navavidha Bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, they should be pursued with Seva Bhav. With Seva. Like we have that primary sloka, Manmana Bhava Madbhakto. Okay, worship Supreme Lord, Krishna says. That's me. Not me, I mean Krishna. Majjaji. That means do all those things, all your duties, all your practical things, all your sadhanas as a yajna, as an offering to me. Now the Mayavadis, they become troubled in this. How can I offer? It's all illusion. You can see how a corrupt philosophy Mayavad is. Covered Buddhism. Praschanam Buddham Uchyate. It is killing this Seva Bhav. If this absolute truth is just energy, some kind of amorphous field, or the absolute truth is a void, or doesn't exist at all, then how can you have Seva Bhav? But Lord Brahma, Ishvara Parama, and the beginning of the Bhagavatam, right? Janmadya Shyatak, that this Supreme Lord is the source of everything. And all the variety and potencies that we see manifest, they are not illusory in the sense of non-existence. They are illusory in the sense that they are non-permanent. They change. Everything is in flux in the material world. But they are real. This table is real, this book is real, this microphone is real, but it is temporary. The microphone, the wood, they will all change into some other form. So they are really existing, but they are temporary. So we use this situation within which we find ourselves. We have to act in this material world, and we act for the realization of the Supreme Lord by performing our sadhana and our duties as an offering to the Supreme Lord. And then we become perfected in our material and spiritual activities. And then by grace of Krishna's spurti, we become realized in our relationship with Krishna. But there are practical purposes, just like in this first sloka we just saw, practical practices. If you remember that, yes, here it is. Esho no atma cetasa veditavyo. So the soul is atomic inside and can be perceived by perfect intelligence. That is very significant. The soul is atomic in size and can be perceived by perfect intelligence. So that is a basic meditational practice. There is that bhajan by Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Manasa Deha Geho, right? That I surrender my griha, my body and mind to you. So this is the way that one starts to function and perceive directly the spiritual platform. Generally, as this sloka says, the soul is within the body and it's distracted by the subtle life airs within the body. So in meditation, griha, the material paraphernalia of the body, we are generally focused on in the external world. So when we want to do smaranam, we should do 3 times a day, the Trisandhya. The first step in this practice is to remove the focus from our external paraphernalia, our smartphone, our glasses, our dhoti, whatever. We should withdraw from that. And then we find ourselves situated within the material body. And then we can relax that material body, pranayam, all those systems, relax the material body, and then withdraw our focus from the material body to within our consciousness, within the mind. And then we become aware of the fluctuations in the mind. So we watch them as a witness, and we try to slow them by pranayam, and then we withdraw from those flickering ideas that run through the mind into consciousness. Here it is said in this sloka that the soul cannot be destroyed, and that which pervades the body is consciousness. So the soul is like the sun, and consciousness is like the sunlight. The soul is an amazing item. It is like a battery that never goes flat. It is eternally generating consciousness. It is getting consciousness. So we should become aware of our consciousness and then withdraw from the focus of our consciousness to within our identity as a soul, which is in the heart of that consciousness, just like the soul is in the heart of the sunlight. So we withdraw from the sunlight to the sun of the soul. But that is not the ultimate step of meditation or fixing on the Supreme. We withdraw from the sun globe to the heart of the sun, which is Narayan Shakti. So Krishna is Atma Atma. In the Bhagavad Gita we read, Sutre Mani Gana Iva, that everything is strung upon Krishna like pearls are strung upon a thread, just like we have neck beads. The neck beads are strung upon a thread. So the soul and every atom and molecule is strung upon the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is pervading material and spiritual creation. Material world is limited, but the spiritual creation is without limit, that it is an unlimited creation. And everything is resting upon the Supreme Lord. Sometimes we may see a picture and there's super soul and then they show a spark, the soul. But actually, super soul is the soul of the soul. Atma, Atma. So when we withdraw from the external paraphernalia, we withdraw from the body, the consciousness, we find our own being, our own identity. We should find the Supreme Lord within that, within our soul. That Mama Angsa, Jiva Buddha. And that is our direct relationship with the Supreme Lord. We are an emanation from the Supreme Lord. We are vibhinangsa. We are a separated expansion. What does the separation mean? We're resting on the Supreme Lord. Supreme Lord is all-pervading. The separation is that we have independent will. We have the ability to focus, as we say, our consciousness in this direction. Now, if we externalize the focus of our consciousness, we must, when we're driving the car or whatever, or something like this, or we're thinking something through, we're within our mind, we're focusing in that way. But the sadhaka should learn the art of focusing his attention, his consciousness, his direction to the Supreme Lord within his own soul. This is the important point. And therefore, throughout all the yogic literatures, the Vedas itself, it explains that that the Supreme Lord, as this purport Prabhupada elaborately explains, the Supreme Lord is within the heart of all living entities. The soul is within the heart, but the Supreme Lord is within the soul. So the Paramatma devotee, he meditating on Rishikesh, the Lord of the senses within the material world. The Brahmavadi is meditating on Brahman. Everything is spiritual, resting upon spirit. But the Upasana Kanda, the section of the Vedas dealing with bhakti, directs us to focus on Bhagavan and our relationship. And Bhagavan relationship is 5 categories, primary, Madhurya Ras, Vatsalya, Sakhya, so on and so forth, Dasya Bhav, Shantaras. And then there are 7 rasas, secondary, laughter, astonishment, chivalry, compassion, anger and dread. And then there are 33 Sanchari Bhavs described by Rupa Goswami in the Nectar of Devotion. So these are the rasas that are within Krishna. Krishna is rasavaisaha. He is not just emanating energy. 3 primary considerations for understanding in the Dasmula Tattva, 3 primary sections, 3 mulas for understanding the Supreme Lord. Yes, he is Hari. That means he is Radha Krishna. He is his energy and himself. The Swarup Shakti Srimati Radharani and Krishna Hari. And then second mula is that he is Shava Shaktimam. He has a Chincha Shakti, a Shakti in unlimited variety and unlimited depth. But then the third section for understanding Bhagavan is Rasavaisaha. You see, you may look at a sunset or something else in the material world and, oh, it's very wonderful. But it is not just energy, it is also wonderful, it has rasa. If you just purely scientifically, you may be looking at a sunset and think, oh, the refraction and the density of the water and the air molecules, they're causing the colors. But the real point of a sunset, why it's wonderful, is because it evokes rasa. So the Supreme Lord is Rasavaisaha. So the Supreme Lord, when the devotee is meditating on Krishna within the heart, it is very important that he understand these 3 intricated aspects of the Supreme Lord. And then he can perceive the Supreme Lord in toto. He's meditating on the Supreme Lord within the soul, but with knowledge of the quality of the Supreme Lord. And it explains here that the living entity is like a molecule, many molecules of sunlight or photons. They are emanating from the sun. So we are each an individual photon of the Supreme Lord, if you want to term it that way. But our relationship is to stay connected. Sevanmukhi jiva, through Sevabhav, and to serve the rasa, Lord Chaitanya, the relationship, the interplay, sambhog and vipralamba between Radha and Krishna. If you read Govinda Lilamrita, Krishna Bhavanamrita, you will see that the Leela of the Supreme Lord, they run on a polarity of meeting and separation. In the Pratak Leela, Krishna and Radha awaken and then they separate to their destinations. Then they meet later and then they separate. This is the beating heart of the Leela. And this separation and meeting is generating unlimited rasa. So the function of the individual soul is to be a servant of that sambhog and prayojan. So now we are in the situation, we are separated from the Supreme Lord, at least those that are still materially conditioned, and we are struggling to awaken our relationship with Krishna. So this is done simply by sincerity. But there again, in the Brahma Samhita, there's that very important sloka at the end. Pramanas tad sad acharas nirantaram. Three things we should always remember. Pramana, we should study the Leela of the Supreme Lord. We should know everything from the Shastra. What is the relationship of Varnashram? What is Sanatan Dham? What is the creation? What are the different departments of the creation? And then sadacharais. We should perfect or purify our life. Regulative principles are there, but behavior, non-envious, non-good behavior. And then nirantaram, we should be constant in our application. And this is all done as an yajna, an offering to the Supreme Lord. And then, by grace of Guru and Krishna, Spuryada, we gradually realize the Supreme Lord in the heart. And as we progress in this realization of the Supreme Lord in the heart, we start, that becomes the main focus of our being, the Supreme Lord. In the materially conditioned state, we're always considering our own benefit, calculation, subtraction, addition in my life. But when we're realizing the Supreme Lord, and we're through Shastra and grace of Guru, realizing that that Supreme Lord is my aim, is my goal, is my function as an angsa, jiva bhuta, sanatana. Then we overcome the mind, mana shastra indriyani, prakritistani kashati. We overcome the fluctuations of the mind that this sloka and Prabhupada explained. The fluctuations of the 5 life airs, that the soul is floating there. When the soul is focused on the Supreme Lord within himself as the Atma of the Atma, then, and pursuing that realization of the Supreme Lord, then concomitantly he realizes his relationship with the Supreme Lord. This is often a mistake. People try to realize themselves, but actually you realize yourself in relationship to the Supreme Lord, because the function of the self is in relationship to the Supreme Lord. Mama angsa jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. We are the angsa, and we are the mama angsa. We belong to Krishna, but we have taken a detour. We have taken our vibhanangsa, our quality of independent choice and focus, into fulfilling our own desires within the material world. So in bhakti sadhana, we want to consider that which is attractive and desired by the Supreme Lord. And therefore that is Ayinanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitamam. I am your servant, Krishna, but I've fallen down. Now you please pick me up. Huh? And then the next sloka is Nainam Gladasrudaraya Vadanam Rudaya, that, oh, I'm feeling separation. So this is what is taught by Lord Chaitanya, service in separation. We shouldn't think we have attained the Supreme Lord. When we're at an immature stage, we should think, I haven't attained the Supreme Lord, but I wish to attain his service. And therefore we chant Hare Krishna in that mood. Hare Krishna means, O Krishna, O Ram, reservoir of pleasure Ram, O Radha, Swarup Shakti Radharani, please engage me in your service. So when we chant Hare Krishna, we don't just recite the mantra as a sound vibration. That may be good initially, but we recite it prayerfully, desiring realization of our relationship with the Supreme Lord in sevabhav, sevanmukhi hi jivado. So we chant the mantra, Hare Krishna mantra, we do mantra smaranam 3 times a day. We should do it in a regulated way. We do it in a sense of offering to the Supreme Lord, sevabhav. And it's very important. Sometimes, I remember one time I met a devotee, he said, oh, I said, come to the class, you learned something. He said, no, I have to do my service. So this is very unfortunate mentality. That people are thinking their service is, running around doing this in the temple. That's okay, we should do something. But the sages at Namasharanya, it said they gathered together to hear the discourse of Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadev Goswami, and in this way to perform yajna. We should always think that we are performing yajna now. You are hearing me, I'm performing kirtan. This is yajna. This is service. And then smaranam, sitting down and in this way trying to find the Supreme Lord and focus the attitude of the consciousness within the self to find the Supreme Lord there. This is service. It is service doesn't mean some practical bodily activity. Smaran pada sevanam. There are 3 levels of pada sevanam, yes. One is stressing bodily activity, one is within the mind, and then one is within the swarup. So they are all integrated, but we should understand that these departments, they are all seva. They are all service. Archanam is obviously service. Archanam vandanam sakhyam atmivedam. But primarily we have to pramanas. We have to develop insight into the Shastra, into the conclusions of Siddhanta. And therefore at the beginning of the Chaitanya Charitamrita it is said that those that are lazy in understanding Siddhanta will find difficulty in making progress. So, but that it doesn't take great intellectualism, because Siddhanta actually is within the soul. we are non-different in quality from the Supreme Lord. And therefore, if you remember, what did Prabhupada say? The soul is atomic in size and can be perceived by perfect intelligence. So what it means, that indicates, one aspect of that phrase, is that the soul naturally sees. To be in nescience and confusion in the material world, like Arjuna at the beginning of the Gita, that is the covering. Mana shastra indriyani prakriti stani kashti. But the real state of the soul is to be in perfect enlightenment at every moment eternally. That is the Chit Shakti. So Siddhanta is not difficult to understand because it is natural to the soul. So, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, we'll finish at that. Any question? I can't see the alarm clock, the clock from this position. Yes, any question? Yeah, go ahead. Huh? What did you say? Yes, as many as you like. That's one question already. Huh? What are the what?
What are these 5 life years? And how
The 5 what?
life air.
Oh, well, that's it. It's a subtle thing. You see, like we touched upon in the class, the material scientists think that the gross body, gross matter, this is materialism in terms of philosophy, creates consciousness and the subtle effects of consciousness, like emotion, attraction, repulsion, right? They think in that way. But we understand from the Vedas that Krishna is the most subtle. Krishna is the source of creation. The creation doesn't go from gross to subtle. It goes from subtle to gross. You understand? So the life airs, they are airs, they're prana. It is a translation, prana is turned into air. It doesn't necessarily mean the air like we have in this room. It means subtle energies. And the soul is balanced on those under the supervision of Paramatma, of Krishna. And he is expanding his consciousness through the individual body from that position within the soul. And he's balanced within the fluctuations of those life airs. So they are subtle energies.
How they are restricting the soul?
Excuse me? Yes, they're restricting, is that what you said? Yeah, that's what Prabhupada says there. That, I'll reread that bit. This atomic soul is floating in the 5 kinds of air, situated within the heart, and spreads its influence all over the body of the embodied Buddha. When the soul is purified from the contamination of the 5 kinds of material air, its spiritual influence is exhibited. So these pranas, these are the energies. Sometimes in yoga literature it said the prana, the life force. It is the energy generated on the subtle plane within the material world of the consciousness of the soul. Under the supervision of the Supreme Lord, the consciousness that's emanating from the soul interacts with the most subtle aspects of the material energy. So the life airs are that. They're subtle material energies. And as explained there, the soul is floating on that. There's these 5 airs, what are they? Samana, prana is the energy of the soul, the life energy. apana, there's a rising one, niche, and for example, if you ulti, that is one. If you go to the toilet, that is one life air pressing down, going to the bathroom. So all these things, they are subtle energies. That's what the Ayurvedic doctors want to do. Huh? Well, it grabs his focus of his attention. You understand? Just like if I have a bad knee, my consciousness goes to that. So it's restricting me from meditating on the Supreme Lord. So this material body is like, just like say you want to go diving in the ocean. You have to put on a diving suit and then you can relate to the water. You can dive, your oxygen tank and your rubber coat. So this body is a diving suit for going into the material energy. So it's restricting. Therefore, people come back, they report near-death experiences. Maybe there's some accident or an operation in the hospital. They leave their body temporarily and they experience color more intensely. Their consciousness expands. They go to different subtle regions. They may converse with different devatas and so on and so forth. So this whole body is a restriction on the soul. Therefore, the yogi, bhakti yogi, or Paramatma yogi, or even Brahman yogi, he knows this. And as I said in the class, he tries to focus on the Supreme Lord on the spiritual platform directly by focusing his attention on transcendence. The transcendental platform is there. It's called Turiya. We experience three: deep sleep, susupti, swapna, dreaming state, and awakening state, jagra. There is a fourth state, Turiya, above the three modes. And so the yogi, he purposely controls the focus of his consciousness. That's why I say we are vibhinangsa, we are separated. We can direct our consciousness. And so in this age, Kali Yuga, we direct our consciousness, particularly by mantra, by hearing Bhagavatam, Gita, Chaitanya, Charitamrita, writings of 6 Goswamis, Leela of the Supreme Lord. And that helps us to perceive the spiritual platform. And then we realize the spiritual platform by the grace of Krishna, Spuryada. And that becomes our possession. Do you understand?
Is it Hatha Yoga by which all these factors become?
Well, all the yogas point towards union. Yoga means union, right? Union with transcendence. So Hatha Yoga balances the life airs so that you can meditate. Jnana, Dharana, Samadhi, right? So we want to, there are different systems, but Hatha Yoga, we can use it to keep the body fit and healthy, but the whole idea is Samadhi, to go into transcendental perception. So Lord Chaitanya, the process, Yuga Avatar, Lord Chaitanya is chanting and sadhusanga and seva bhav. Huh? Sorry?
The shlok which is there, Hridesha Arjuna Tisthati, that is the soul and the super soul reside in the heart. So what is this heart? Because plants and sometimes...
Yes. So the soul is residing within each body in a particular way, right?
What is heart? Hriday? Because
Well, heart means the guya, the secret heart, the hidden part, guya atma. So the heart means, it doesn't necessarily means the heart, which is pumping away. But if, say for example, I say, what's the heart of the problem? That means what's the central point? So we can understand that every plant, bird, bee, whatever, there's a heart, there's a central core, and there is a soul there. Now it may vary, right, according to the tree, or the plant, or the bird. But generally you find, right, it's interesting, it's remarkable that all mammals, they have the same basic structure, don't they? They have wings, that's their arms. They have legs. They have a beating heart throughout, throughout all the more developed mammals. So within the heart of the mammal is the soul. So even the material, Prabhupada mentions that, the material scientists know that. And we know from personal experience, sometimes we have a shock. We feel it in the heart, is it not? Because that is where we are centered. So therefore, in all, as I said in the class, we want to learn, we want to find ourselves within the heart, and within the soul, within ourselves, we want to find Krishna. Understand? So Krishna is there with all potencies. He's not limited by time and space. This thing, he's the heart of the soul. And Krishna is always accompanied by the whole creation. You see, we view reality in terms of the dimensionality of this world. This room is maybe 15 meters long or something, right? And 10 meters wide. So we think we live in a limited world, and our consciousness is limited by time, limited by this body. So yogic meditation through chanting of Hare Krishna is to transcend those limitations of the life airs, of the external world, and go directly to the spiritual platform, right? And so once the yogi is gaining realization of that spiritual platform, that becomes his permanent asset. He carries it with him. He is able to withdraw to that realization of transcendence at his will. So even when he's driving a motor car, he is centered on himself and Krishna within the heart. It's a different level of consciousness, it's a different state of consciousness. Where the material consciousness, we're just externally orientated, mentally orientated. We're not perceiving the Supreme Lord. So therefore, as it says here in this sloka, the soul is perceived by perfect, purified consciousness. So by mantra, by knowledge, by sadhana, we purify the consciousness and we realize directly, this is the point, we realize directly the spiritual platform. I think this is the experience of all devotees, right? When we chant, today is Ekadashi, we're chanting, sitting down chanting, we're realizing the Supreme Lord. So the neophyte condition is we're maybe 1% realizing, 2%, 3%. So we nirantaram, we keep. But by grace of Krishna, we realize, yes, when I chant, when I see the deity, when I read Bhagavad Gita, I get a feeling that is not something I've experienced in the material world. I think we all experience that, right? This is spiritual realization. I read the purport and I think, wow, yes. That is spurti. That is Krishna giving us realization. We're performing tapasya, shravanam, hearing from the sadhu. And then we realize, wow, that's true. I'm not the body, I'm the soul. And we realize that directly, and that once that realization is, that becomes our permanent asset. You understand? Therefore devotees, It's in the Bhagavatam. They may sometimes become deviated because of this and that, but they never undergo the material world like somebody who's unrealized in the spiritual platform. Because they always know in their heart, oh, I'm not this material body. Now I've got to get back to chanting and I've got to stop. Right? So the neophyte it's like walking. You fall down, trip over when you're a child. So you have to... And Krishna, he's supremely compassionate. So he wants to give us realization. This is the point. That is his desire. He's not impersonal. And so, therefore, Krishna says, I'm going to tell you now, Arjuna, the greatest secret. Before Savadar, he said, Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskaru. He's saying, this is a secret. If you approach me in this faithful way, do everything as an offering to me, this is a great secret, because this is the way you'll capture my heart. You understand? So this is secret knowledge. We don't tell that to a demon. No, this is Krishna. He's not saying, Mam namaskaru, pay obeisances to me. He's saying, look, I've got a very soft heart. I'm very compassionate. Now, so if you go to the deity and you pray and you chant your 16 rounds or more or whatever, and you offer it to me, that'll touch my heart. This is a secret. And you'll capture me by your devotion. So this is a secret. The Supreme Lord is the most compassionate, the most merciful. You understand? So he's revealing this to the devotees. Oh, look. Just offer me a flower of fruit, some water, and I'll accept it, but offer it pretty purvakam, with love, you know. Conjure up some love. Oh Krishna, you're my source, you're my creator. Here's some water. And then Krishna says, I'll accept it. This is bhakti, right? This is the power of bhakti. You understand? The yogi is thinking, I'm balancing my life airs in this way and doing this and that. But the bhakti is giving, oh, Krishna, here's some water. And Krishna's thinking, oh, you're sniffing and snorting. I like this person who's offering me some water. Of course, Krishna is merciful to everyone, but he's saying, Arjuna, this is the big secret, that I'm very soft-hearted. I become the charioteer of my devotee. Na me bhakti pranashati. I appear as Nrsingadev to protect Prahlad. So, that is the secret of bhakti. To know that Krishna is very soft-hearted, compassionate. And if we just try a little bit, it'll touch his heart. And then we realize Krishna. So therefore, for the conditioned soul, the most important aspect of Krishna is his merciful nature. And that is particularly manifest in Lord Chaitanya. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate. You see. So Krishna, he is unlimited in all aspects. So he's unlimited in his doya, in his compassion. You see. And we just approach. And therefore there's those songs. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Koro More Toma Vina Ke Dayalu Jagat Samsare Patita Pavana Hetu Tavavatara mo samo patita Prabhu na paivayara. So Krishna, touching Krishna's heart, you understand? Ha Nityananda, Premananda Sukhi, you're always happy. Please make me happy, Nityananda, please. So this is bhakti, you understand? It is to touch the heart of Krishna. So this is secret way of touching. Just simple thing. But once we understand it, then we understand bhakti. You see? We're not performing austerities because we want to be this or that, or float, or learn to levitate. No, we want to. And Radharani and the gopis, there's the Astashaki, they keep Krishna under control by their bhakti. Everyone knows, right? He is Gopijana Balabhaya. He is the beloved of the gopis, and he is the lover of the gopis. So that he is Ishvara Parama Krishna, unlimited Shakti. Completely independent, but he's controlled. If you just offer him a little water. Oh Krishna. This is all I've got. I've got one tulsi leaf and some water, please. Because he's unlimited in all his qualities. So his compassion is unlimited. It's a secret of bhakti. Anyway, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you for your kind attention. See you next Friday, I hope. Don't tell the secret to anyone. Raja Vidya, Raja Guyam, Raja Guya.